The Emperor's Soul has arrived, which means I'm just about ready to start catching up on the Cosmere before Wind and Truth comes out. But the question is that a realistic goal, or am I just crazy for thinking that I can actually do that before December of this year? Now, Brandon Sanderson is one of the authors that really launched me into my love of adult fantasy and really got me back into reading as an adult. I started with The Way of Kings, which was kind of an interesting choice, but I'm glad that I did it that way because I loved that series so much. I read the Mistborn trilogy in 2022, which is about a full year after I read the Stormlight Archive, but that was almost 2 full years ago that I read Mistborn, which time just flies. That is absolutely wild. But after taking a break from Brandon Sanderson to check out other amazing authors, I thought it was finally time to really buckle down and get some of the other Cosmere books under my belt before Wind and Truth comes out. Wind and Truth is by far my most anticipated release of this year. I cannot wait for another entry into the Stormlight Archive and to see how this arc wraps up. I would actually love to reread the Stormlight Archive before that happens, but with all of these that I'm about to talk about, I don't know if that's going to be doable. Maybe I'll do audiobooks for those. I haven't decided yet, but my main priority is catching up on the other Cosmere novels before that comes out. Okay, so the books from the Cosmere that I've already read include Edge Dancer, Warbreaker, Tress of the Emerald Sea, Hero of Ages, Well of Ascension, Mistborn, Rhythm of War, Oathbringer, Words of Radiance, Way of Kings, and Dawn Shard. So I've already read a good amount, but I've got about half of the Cosmere that I haven't even touched yet. Let's count up how many pages this will actually end up being. So the Mistborn Secret History is 176. The 11th Metal is 21. The Alloy of Law is 392. Allomancer Jack is 40. Shadows of Self is 383. The Bands of Mourning is 514, and The Lost Metal is 507. That finishes Mistborn for me if I read all of those. Elantris, which I'm currently reading, is 638. Yumi and the Nightmare Painter is 365. The Sunlit Man is 446. Editor Sam here. I forgot to include The Emperor's Soul and The Hope of Elantris in this count, so I'm adding those now. And I'm not really sure how to count Arcanum Unbounded. I do. So what I've done is I've taken out all of the page counts that are in Arcanum Unbounded that are on the screen now. So those aren't going into the final number, but the page count of Arcanum Unbounded is. I also took out the page count of Edge Dancer because I already read that. I don't have to read that again. So what we end up with is all of those page counts accounted for, and all the ones that I didn't include on the screen that might come into play. Things like White Sand that I'm not sure if I'm going to read yet, just because time. That's how I did it. It's still a little bit rough, but that's probably the closest number I can get. But in total, it's 672, but it contains a lot of the other stories that I just mentioned. Oh, the Emperor's Soul is in this. Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, I wouldn't have needed to buy the... Oh, darn, I should have checked Arcanum Unbounded. If you're going to read The Emperor's Soul and you don't want to pay for 2 books, get Arcanum Unbounded. I totally didn't realize. That is such a goof. It's fine. Also, I think I'll be glad to have this one anyway, just because I like having the separate physical book. That was silly of me. So all of those combined add up to be over 4,000 pages of reading. So in order to get from where I currently am in the Cosmere to where I want to be by the time Wind and Truth comes out, I need to read 4,000 pages. So now let's figure out what that actually takes and if that's something that I want to commit myself to. So pulling up the calculator. Okay, so if we're calling that 4,000 pages roughly, and let's see, on a good day, I read 50 pages a day. I'm a very slow reader, so that's like an hour, maybe 2 hours of reading for me. I know how slow that is. I get books done, but it is a slower process for me. Let's say that I am able to do 50 pages a day. Let's divide 4,000 by 50. That would be 80 days of reading 50 pages a day. So that's actually not as daunting as I thought it was going to be. That sounds pretty manageable. Keeping in mind that I'm not going to read 50 pages every single day. Some of them will be more than that. Some of them will be less than that. But only 80 of the days between now and December 6th have to be 50-page days in order for me to finish the Cosmere, which that sounds very doable to me, actually. Now that I'm thinking about it, that's every other day for 6-ish months, or a really solid 80 days, or like 3 months of reading 50 pages most days. There are many ways that I could actually get that done. And that's 50 pages of the Cosmere per day, not just 50 pages overall per day. So I have to keep that in mind as well. So this is sounding actually kind of doable to me now. That's so encouraging. So I mentioned right now I'm reading Elantris, which I'm really liking so far, but I can definitely tell it's some of Brandon's earlier work. It's not as polished and as masterful as the stuff that he writes now, but I can see the roots of his writing and where he came from. So it's been a really enjoyable experience for me so far. I do think I read Brandon Sanderson's books faster than I read other books, just because of the way he writes and the formatting of the page. Like, there are multiple factors that goes into that, but I do think that I can read his work faster than usual. So if I were to read all 4,000 of those pages, that sounds like there's still time to read plenty of other stuff between books. I have other series that I'm loving, other books that I'm reading, other things that I want to do during that time. So it sounds like since it's only 80 days of doing 50 pages a day, it sounds like there's some wiggle room in there. I have over 300 days until Wind and Truth comes out, and then a few more days until I receive the book. So I think I'm gonna go for it. I think I'm gonna try to catch up on the Cosmere in 2024. This will be the year of the Cosmere for me. I know last year was technically the year of Sanderson. So I filmed the first part of that video about 2 weeks ago, and in that time I've finished reading Elantris. I read The Emperor's Soul and The Hope of Elantris. Most days I was able to read 50 pages. Not every day, it doesn't always work out that perfectly, but I did manage to read 50 pages most days. And most of the 15 days since I recorded that first part, I was reading Elantris. So Elantris did take me a little while to get through. It is 600 something pages long. So it's really nice that Emperor's Soul was a lot shorter and Hope of Elantris was 25 pages. Overall, I'm feeling pretty good about my ability to finish the Cosmere before Wind and Truth comes out, and I'm really looking forward to doing so. I just started reading The Alloy of Law, which is the first book in Mistborn Era 2, and so far I'm really liking it. I know it's not his most beloved work, but as of right now, I'm liking it better than I liked Elantris. Elantris, I don't think was his best work, but I do think it gets more hate than it deserves. Emperor's Soul was awesome. I loved the discussions about art that it brought up, the questions that it asked about what's genuine and what's true when it comes to art. I had a really fun time with it, and it was a really quick read. It's like 160 pages, I think, but the word count is really small. So I'm off and running with this goal, and I'd love to keep you all posted on how it's going. I'm hoping to film a spoiler-free and spoiler review of Elantris pretty soon, because I'd like to talk more about the Cosmere. It's a universe that I love, and I want to share that with all of you. So I think as of right now, I have roughly 3,500 pages to go until I complete the Cosmere, which is so exciting, and I love how fast that number is dropping. So we'll see how long I can keep that up. If you believe that talking about books is just as important as reading them, make sure you subscribe to this channel, because that's what I do here. And also, I wanted to thank my patrons. We've got 2. They're awesome. I'm so glad that they're here. Thank you to Andrew and Ross for supporting the channel. It's because of people like you that I get to do what I do here, so thank you so much. All of my paid tiers of patrons get access to my blog, Weekly Favorites, where I discuss all of my favorite things that I've consumed that week, whether it's reading, watching, listening, everything. I talk about it in there. So if you're curious about that, starting at just $1 a month, you can see that too. If you'd like to check out any of the books that I talked about in this video from the Cosmere, I've linked them all in the description for you to check out. Those are affiliate links, so if you use those, I get a little kickback at no additional cost to you. This past week, it's been cold all over the country, so if you'd like some snow day book recommendations, click here, and I have a video recommending some books that are great to cozy up with on a cold day. Okay, that's all. See ya.